Hi, Latricia. Here's this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, NIGP Certified Procurement Professional, a proven pathway that invests in your long-term career growth. Today's presenters include CEO Rick Grimm, along with Diane Daly, the Director of Certification Programs, with special guest Tabitha Friedman, Senior Procurement Analyst with Volusia County, Florida. If at any time during the webinar you need tech support, please let me know in chat. Remember to engage with your peers by making sure you have your chat option selected to everyone. During the webinar, please submit any questions you have to the Q&A box on your screen, and we will take them during specified parts of the presentation. Rick, would you like to get us started?
Yes, Justin, thank you very much for kicking us off this afternoon. And thanks to each of you, 42, now 43 attendees who are joining us this afternoon to talk about the NIGP Certified Procurement Professional, or CPP designation. Really grateful for your time, and always grateful for all that you do to support the communities that you serve in public procurement. You guys are our everyday heroes, and we're just honored to have you as members or interested members of NIGP as the Institute for Public Procurement. Now, we're gonna really focus today on the certification program. It's really important to understand that the certification program is really part of this larger program called Pathways. The reason why that's important is we don't like to think of certification as the end-all be-all or standalone, that it is integrated. For many individuals, maybe certification is not your path. You plan on being in public procurement for maybe a shorter period of time and then do something else with your career. And you don't have the number of years that you would build into certification. And so when NIGP developed the Pathways program in 2018, 2019, our idea was to really provide an opportunity, a customized program that allowed you to plug and play wherever it fit into your career goals. And so Pathways does that because it's integrated. It integrates all the learning with the ways in which you get recognized through credentials. And so it's for you. If you're just starting in the profession, there's something in Pathways for you. If you've been here for 20, 25 years in public procurement, there is something for you. And that's really the benefit of an integrated system that we call Pathways. And it's really our three objectives with Pathways. It's to build that stronger workforce. You know, so many of us, and by the way, before I joined NIGP, I was one of you. I was doing public procurement. I was doing sourcing for both school districts and for county governments. And I know I fell into public procurement. I still go out today and hear the majority of our members, our professionals, talk about falling into public procurement. It's really important that we work to build that stronger workforce and really focusing on leadership. You'll hear leadership mentioned throughout this particular program because it's an integral part of what we're doing in Pathways. And when we build a stronger workforce and when we build more capable leaders, we really elevate that image of public procurement. Now, Pathways is really comprised of four components. The anchor, and you'll hear Diane and I talk about this repeatedly this afternoon. That anchor is the public procurement competency framework. And within that framework, we have built a series of certificates, specializations, and of course, today we'll focus on certification. But this public procurement competency framework was really based on a piece of research that was done by our colleagues at the Public Spend Forum, who had a grant from the Volcker Alliance. And you may remember the name Paul Volcker. He was chair of the US Federal Reserve Board in the 1980s, 1990s. And what Mr. Volcker recognized in that position, where he was overseeing kind of the financial operations of the US economy, is that there is a significant amount of spend that runs through you every day as public servants. As a matter of fact, that number today is $4.3 trillion of public funds that runs through federal, state, and local government. And you'll be surprised to know that the combination of state and local government is larger than the spend of the federal government. And we're talking both civilian and defense spending. So a significant portion is running through you. And when Mr. Volcker was thinking about this and then retired from the bank, he says, we really need to be able to build a framework that identifies those key competencies that an individual in public procurement should know in order to be successful in the workplace. And that's why this competency framework anchors everything that we're doing at NIGP. Now, it represents about 7 focus areas. As a matter of fact, when the study came out of Public Spend Forum, they had 5. We decided in working with Public Spend Forum to expand it into 7. And they are the areas of strategy, policy, legislation, planning analysis, sourcing, solicitation, contract administration, leadership, and business principles. And within each of those 7 focus areas, there are a series of competency modules that really develop first at the foundation level, and then as we build out pathways, we'll have advanced and even expert areas. Now, the idea behind this kind of a modular competency framework in terms of learning is that you can come and go and you can pick and choose in your workforce development which topics are most relevant to you. Now, again, if you have been around like I have for just a couple of years, when I took NIGP classes, I went to 3-day classes, which were wonderful. It was drinking from the fire hose. But oftentimes the topics were not as relevant to the work that I was doing in county government. The idea behind pathways is you can begin to pick and choose which of those competency modules align with your current roles in public sector, and then to think about what you aspire to do in your career. So again, this is all about you. It's identifying those competencies that you need to develop. So for example, someone who's coming fresh out of a college degree and has never worked in the public sector will have a different set of competency modules that are important to them, as opposed to someone who was done procurement for 20 years in the private sector and is now coming over into the public sector. Or is different than someone who was playing at a buyer level and now aspires to move into mid-management and to leadership. The idea is that this is about you. It's about your career paths, and for you to be able to have that flexibility to pick and choose which competency modules are important to you. Now, within those competency modules, we have built, again, a series of certificates, specializations, and certifications. And they really begin kind of at that competency badge level. So every time that you're taking one of these competency modules, you earn a badge. You take the class, there's a small assessment at the end, and then you get these digital badges that you can actually, place on all your social media. But think for a moment the ability to bundle some of those competencies into a certificate program. So here's an example of 3 core certificates. We have a total of 5 on the NIGP side, and we'll continue to grow those as the program grows. But here are the 3 one's on strategy and policy foundations. And you can see it's the bundling of 4 of those competency modules: mission and public benefit, enabling regulations, ethics, integrity, and transparency, and legislation and legal environment. So that gives you another option to pursue, if you wish to do so, to get this strategy and foundations and policy foundations, or just the planning and analysis. By the way, these are not in sequence and these are not a requisite. The idea behind pathways is to give you choice on how you want to be recognized for the learning that you achieved. Think of, though, the ability to bundle several certificates into a designation program. And so our first designation is this Public Procurement Associate designation, which is the bundling of those 3 core certificates. Now, when Diane talks about the different pathways that you have for eligibility in the certification program, you will hear her mention this Public Procurement Associate designation. Now, again, just to give you that option to think about where you want to play in terms of certificates and certifications as well. Now, in addition to the certificate programs, we offer on an annual basis a new specialization. Those specializations are kind of like a deep dive into a fairly relevant contemporary topic that's really important for public procurement. So in 2019, we issued the procurement automation specialization. And last year we did public instruction And we're working on cloud-based procurement for 2021. Now, these are standalone, so you don't have to earn a certificate before you can get a specialization. But the idea, again, is looking at where your career path is. And if you say, hey, by the way, my organization now wants me to really focus in on construction, public construction, wow, there is a specialization and a badge that's available for you as well. So again, using the framework of the public procurement competency framework as the foundation for the work that we're doing, you have the option of certificates or specializations, and then we'll talk about certification now. As we move there, Justin, we want to do a quick poll because we utilize your results to help make sure that we are addressing your specific kind of questions that you have. And again, as Justin mentioned earlier, please also use the Q&A box or the chat box, and we'll be picking that up. But for just a minute, if you could identify where you are on your journey, whether or not you're certified, but have formal education.
Yeah, we'll give everybody about 10 more seconds. And it looks like we have a little over 70%.
Okay.
And here are results.
Okay, so the majority of you are coming in with a bachelor's degree, not certified. About 30% of you are currently certified, so 70% are not. And we're seeing, Diane and I are seeing more of that trend line as we move forward with the certification program. But again, thank you for participating in the poll, because that really helps us identify specific members of the audience and where you would be coming into the eligibility factors for the certification program. So what makes this program unique? Well, about three things. One is the target really is to mid to executive level leaders. Now, oftentimes we confuse what leadership means. Leadership is the ability to be able to influence the direction of an organization. It does not necessarily mean it's the top person that's in the organization, the chief procurement officer or executive director. But it does talk about, and you don't even have to manage individuals, supervise individuals, but it really is focused on the leadership competencies that you need in order to be successful in the workplace. And we all play leadership roles at different levels. But again, mid to executive level leader. So this is not, I just got out of college, I'm going to get my CPP. It really doesn't fit for there. It's that mid to executive level. I told you I was going to mention this, and you're going to get sick and tired of hearing me saying it, but it is built on that public procurement competency framework. It's so critical, those 7 focus areas. And then the focus is not what you know. So it's not a, what are the 6 and what are the 7 and et cetera, but this is applying knowledge to the work that you do every day. So it is competency based. Now, when we built this program, there were 6 guiding principles. I'm going to go over those very, very quickly for you. It's about competency. Competency is the ability to perform on the job every day. It's not necessarily how to do an RFP, but how do you make the decisions on which sourcing based on the specific product or service that you're trying to provide for your entity. So it is a competency. It also has to be rigorous and meaningful. It has to be also flexible and really adaptable to your current environment. And the advantage of this being integrated with the Pathways program is that as NIGP does research, and that research changes or evolves into new content, that content flows into the rest of Pathways, the certificate program and the certification programs as well. So they always remain relevant. It also needs to be comprehensive. So it's not just focused in on the kind of the procurement techniques that we perform, identifying methods of source selection, identifying contract administration, but it also expands in areas of leadership. Why? Because leadership is so important to the work that we do. And of course, this particular certification program is focused in on leaders. So it's comprehensive of all those competencies. This fifth one about following ANSI accreditation was absolutely critical. So when we were building this program, and the advantage of when you're building from scratch, you can use the standards that have been created from the ISO 17024. You use that as a benchmark to make sure that when you build the certification program, it aligns with those standards. Why is that important? Because again, like you, when I was practicing, it was very important in public procurement to establish standards, because it provides a lot of clarity in terms of the direction and the critical relationship of the product or service. So we made sure that we were following those standards, and our game plan. Now that we're about 1 year out from the development of the program, we're going to pursue ANSI accreditation. So we want to make sure we follow those best practices, because that's what you do in your job every day. You follow best practices. And of course, we want it valued not only by your peers, but your supervisors and employing organizations as well. Now, it was developed in a process where, again, we took the public procurement competency framework and then shifted to a panel of your peers, subject matter experts, who developed a survey. And the survey was intended to do two things: to identify the frequency and the importance of activities performed by that target audience, right? Mid to senior level leaders. And it is the results of those surveys that really helped inform key decisions on eligibility and the exam content. So my message here is that utilizing these best practices in developing a professional certification program, the whole eligibility criteria and the whole exam content came from you and your peers through that survey. And NIGP will continue to do those surveys, but usually about every 3 to 4 years, to make sure that, again, the certification program remains relevant. So today, 1 year out, impact 551 CPP certificates. Now, my guess is that number has increased a little bit since we did this slide, because we're currently in another testing period for August of 2021, and we will see more candidates come through that will receive their certification. There's over 1,000 approved applicants who already hold a CPPO or a CPPB from the UPPCC, and they are seeking their CPP via this bridge exam. And that's about 30% of you that are on this call. Now, I do want to mention the critical importance of the certification handbook. The certification handbook is a downloadable document. So you go into the NIGP website, you'll see on the home page a tab for certification. When you click on that certification tab, all the information that we'll be talking about today will be there available for you, including that ability to download the certification handbook. It's really, really critical, because we have a limited number of time to really go through the mechanics of this certification in this webinar. And we're going to move pretty fast and furious, right? But you want to rely on that certification handbook to be able to address all of your issues. Now, before we begin talking about the mechanics of the certification program, hopefully I helped put this in a nice, kind of a framework of why that certification is important, why it's different, how it fits into the concepts of pathways, and how you get recognized for the work you do. And most importantly, how you have choice in making a decision on whether a certificate program is good, or you want to start with a certificate program and then move to certification. Because quite honestly, this is all about you, and to help you raise your level of competency and your success in the workplace. Now, you don't have to listen to Diane and I. Of course, we work for NIGP. I want you to listen to your peers who have said a number of things. Our good friend Stephanie Dion, who is at Manitoba Hydro, says that the certification is inclusive and really promotes that critical thinking. And we're just absolutely agree with Stephanie. And by the way, congratulations to Stephanie. She is our 2021 Professional Buyer of the Year for NIGP. So really, really proud of the work that Stephanie does in Manitoba. Or Travis Pierce, who is with the Raleigh-Durham Airport Authority. He says that the certification program has empowered him with the confidence and expertise needed to derive and deliver results. And he says it's a demonstration of competence and knowledge and skills that excel as a leader in the profession. Or our good friend Lisa Mahalko, who is on our Finance Council. She's from the Georgia Technology Authority. She says it really considers herself a highly motivated, highly achieving individual. And she thought she'd been hitting the ceiling. Maybe this applies to you and the number of years that you may have been working in public procurement. She hit the ceiling, needs assistance in moving to the next level. And she says by achieving her certification, she can now showcase the technical and behavioral skills that this certification exemplifies. But today we're really honored to bring another dear friend to this webinar. I've known Tabitha for a number of years. We have a few Florida connections, although I think, Tabitha, you're much younger than I, so I don't know what you were doing when I was working at Miami-Dade County, but we're really grateful to have you with us today and to talk about your experience on earning your CPP. So welcome, and why don't you kind of give the audience some sense of why you pursued this certification? And another question would be, how did you prepare?
Thank you, Rick. I was waiting to be unmuted.
Sorry, okay.
So I am now unmuted. So I hope everybody's having a really wonderful day. Thank you for inviting me to speak about the NIGP-CPP certification. So just to give you a little bit of background, I joined public procurement profession in 2008 with the County of Volusia. We're located in Central Florida, just north of Orlando. So as many people that have been in the profession for a while, I did obtain my CPP, the Certified Professional Public Buyer certification, and I did that in 2011. And then I followed up with the Certified Professional Public Officer certification in 2014. A couple of years ago, when I was at Forum, one of the classes that were offered was were the folks from NIGP just chatting about what they wanted to do for the future. And part of that discussion was the pathways and where they saw themselves going with opening up certifications and the possibility of professional development for its members. That came to fruition in 2020 when the NIGP Certified Public Professional Certificate was offered. This was the first major certification program from NIGP and the first that was comparable to the previous UPPCC certificates. Lucky for me, I qualified for the NIGP-CPP Bridge exam, which is available to those that already have one of the other certifications. At the time I was preparing for the test, the Bridge online prep course was offered at no charge, as was the certification. The course was a multi-week combination of online interaction and personal study using the prep guide. That was part of the course. The study time frame for the Bridge exam was probably about 2 months, where I really focused and concentrated on my off hours or during lunch or during the breaks of focusing on the studying material. Currently, NIGP offers online assessment tools, flashcards, prep guides, a prep course, the NIGP-CPP prep community on Nsight as resources. I'm part of a local NIGP chapter, so you may be as well, and your chapters may offer study groups and mentoring programs that can assist you in your professional development journey. Your own agency team members may also be able to assist you with studying. In the past, I have worked with our team members where we've gotten together and used our lunch breaks so that we all get together and go over a list of questions, or we do a trivia, or we do Jeopardy and make some games out of these. So I mentioned being part of a local chapter. I'm actually an officer of the Central Florida chapter at NIGP. And through that, I see that our members are using a mixture of resources available. The most frequently purchased study tools using the scholarship dollars are the online assessment tools and the flashcards. So that gives you a little bit about my certification journey. So I wanted to share with you what this means to me. While I was planning on being the first group of the procurement professionals to achieve this certification, as many of you had the same experiences, COVID came around the corner and closed many of the testing centers in my area. So thus, that window was closed to me, that opportunity. But I am honored to be one of the first 118 recipients to obtain this NIGP Certified Procurement Professional certification in 2020. I was in the second group. I do believe that this certification is a must for procurement professionals that have been in the field for some time. It is based on situational experience and industry standard knowledge. This differentiates this certification from the CPPB and the CPPO. The test really makes you think, what would I do in this situation at my entity? So Rick has mentioned about leadership. And as you can tell, I'm a senior procurement analyst. I'm not a manager over here, but as an analyst in purchasing, we each take a role in leadership. Our role in leadership could be as simple as facilitating a meeting between multiple groups of people, or it could be as intense as managing a major project through a solicitation process. So leadership at every level in procurement is part of our daily lives. So even if you are relatively new, NIGP Pathways program offers you the flexibility to tailor your certification training based on education and work experience. It lets you build on the skills that you need to attain your certification goal. Value. So I wanted to touch base about the value of this certification. The certification is included in my organization's Recognized Procurement Profession Certification Achievement Program. So I don't know if any of your agencies have a certification achievement program. This one does. So what happens is, with the approval of the purchasing director, an employee may receive a merit award to the employee's base pay for the following certifications: the CPPB, CPPO, and the NIGP-CPP. That was the NIGP certification was added January 25th, 2021. So what does that mean for somebody that's working in a department? Any combination of the three certifications may result in a merit award up to $4,000 for a purchasing agent, manager, or director. So value, it could be that in your organization, there's a direct correlation to a pay raise, or it could mean that direct correlation to the next level up in your organization, or if you want to change organizations. What are the few reasons why you would want to do this? It complements the job training and ensures work product, and process consistency. It encourages professional growth of specific approved training programs. And it rewards staff who obtain and maintain certifications by continuing training, increasing knowledge, and contributing to the advancement of the public procurement profession. So does your agency have a merit award program? Something to think about. So I wanted to talk about the support and enthusiasm of the certification. I have noticed that jobs being posted on our local chapter website and some on the national website are now starting to include the NIGP-CPP certification in the qualifications. On Facebook, social media, there are two groups, NIGP Mentorship and Procurement Woman Leaders. These groups promote, support, and encourage members obtaining certifications. The big thing is I find that this new certification is bringing our network of peers together more and more. We are meeting with webinars. We are discussing these certifications in our offices. We are discussing them at meetings. We are discussing the test. We are discussing study methods. And it's really amazing how NIGP has really put an amazing program together, and it has resulted in far more communication within the procurement community. So everybody on this call, I hope you are looking towards doing the NIGP-CPP certification, and you are always welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Hey, Tabitha, thank you. Thank you. You know, what struck out at me was your explanation of what leadership looks like. And, you know, I think unfortunately, folks say, well, as a matter of fact, I had a person who contacted me because we're doing this leadership summit that wanted to go to the summit, and our boss says, well, you're not a leader, you're only a mid-manager. And it's like, to me, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard because you do so much leadership. And I love the way in which you frame that as you may be running an evaluation team meeting, or you may have to go in front of a board and to defend the procurement process, which are all in that leadership. So that I really appreciate the fact that you framed it that way. And also to hear that, you know, this program just evolved, you know, a little bit more than 12 months. And now you're already seeing that this certification is recognized for promotions and for salary increases. So that's really, really good. I'm really grateful for your time, Tabitha. Thank you very much for sharing with us. And if you have a chance, because I know you're probably not going to stick with us, but if you would go into the chat box and put in your email address in case folks want to reach out to you, that would be great. And thanks again for being with us. So before we actually delve into what we identify as the 5 big key questions that people ask us about the certification, I'd like to get a second poll on what your biggest concerns are. And again, you can select all that apply, but just take maybe 10, 15 seconds to check which ones are most important to you. Again, what this does is it helps Diane and I focus on specific attributes that we'll cover in the webinar.
And we'll give everyone a few more seconds. And Rick, here are results.
Okay. So the number 1, Diane, is the time required to prepare and study. So we will cover that. Taking the exam at the testing center, we'll talk about that as well. We're going to move into eligibility in just a minute or two, and relevancy. So great. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, the number 1 is the cost of the cost of the application exam fees. So we'll be covering all of those. So at this time, I'm really honored to turn over the webinar to Diane Daly, who is our Director of Certification. Diane has been with NIGP now for 2 years, but she comes to us with a wealth of information over 3 decades of running professional certification programs for other non-for-profit associations. The one thing to mention about Diane, other than the fact that she will become your best friend, she's there to support you and to work with you so you can achieve your success, is that because NIGP created the certification program, it's really important that we have firewalls that separate the communiques that you'll have on certification with the rest of the organization. So when it comes to certification issues, Diane is your go-to person. When it comes to any other issues like pathways, research, professional development, I and our team at NIGP can support you in there. But it's really important. And Diane will mention that throughout the webinar that there really are two individuals that have that firewall between us. So we want to make sure that you understand the importance of that firewall, because the last thing we'd want to do is have our professional development teach you to be successful on passing the exam. Because folks, trust me, this isn't about passing an exam. It's about recognizing this certification and the competencies that you achieved, as Tabitha mentioned, the competencies you achieved through these situational questions that you'll have on the exams. And that prepares you for being successful in the workplace. So Diane, why don't you take it away and we'll talk about the 5 questions that we typically hear in our webinars.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So let's see the big 5 questions. Am I eligible? How do I apply? How do I schedule my appointment? How am I going to prepare? And then how do I recertify, maintain my CPP? So let's take a look at the first question. Am I eligible? We have 6 options to meet the eligibility requirements. And you'll see that for the NIGP-CPP, it's completely based on formal college and university education plus relevant work experience. All relevant work experience must be full-time procurement within the past 10 years. Or if you're currently certified as a CPPO or CPPB, then we don't require any formal education or relevant work experience. So no training hours, no prerequisites. So let's take a look at the 6 different eligibility pathways. Pathway A. So it looks like that's about 8% of the people on the call. You have a graduate degree that's specific to one of these 5 areas. And then you'll have the lowest number of work experience months, so 24 months. If you have that specific graduate degree, just 24 months of relevant work experience. Then we'll go to pathway B, and that has 35% of you, the highest percent today. That's nope, ignore what I just said. Pathway B is a bachelor's degree and a graduate level certificate. So pathway B, you have to have both the degree and the graduate level certificate, and that would be 36 months. And pathway B is the pathway that we see the least applicants, simply because of that graduate level certificate. Pathway C, here we go. This is what I was talking about, 35% of you, bachelor's degree in any area. You can see the work experience is increased. We're at 48 months of relevant work experience. Pathway D, that's a 2-year post-secondary diploma or the NIGP Public Procurement Associate designation. As Rick mentioned, that is a designation that individuals can earn. It can also give you access to Pathway D and 72 months of work experience full-time within the past 10 years. And then let's take a look at pathway E and F. Pathway E, no post-secondary diploma. And we've got a number of people. And with the practice analysis, we learned that there are many people at the mid to executive level in procurement who don't have a formal degree. And so pathway E is for you, 8 years or 96 months of relevant work experience within the past 10 years. And then if you are a current CPPO or CPPB, as 27% of you are, or you've lapsed within 1 year of your NIGP-CPP application date, you want to apply for pathway F. So write a big letter F down if that's you. You want to remember that.
And Diane, since we have a number of people that would probably be in that D or E range, it's just important to note that pathway E by itself, 8 years of experience. But if you earn that the designation, we actually have a boot camp to get that designation. It's about I think it's maybe a 3-week class. You can actually, you're cutting 2 years of relevant work experience. Again, this is all about flexibility, giving you choice. So just know the differences between D and pathway E.
That's a great point. And when you're looking at the past 10 years, you know, the difference between 72 months and 96 months can be significant. And there are individuals right now who are working on or have just completed the designation so they can apply under the pathway D. And so let's take a little bit more in-depth look at the pathway F eligibility for the CPP-O's and B's. You're going to complete an online application the same as everybody. The first thing you'll do on the application is select your eligibility pathway. If you select pathway F, what will pop up is a section for you to upload your CPP-O or CPP-B certificate, or if that's hanging on the wall at your office and you're at home, you can access the UPPCC database and upload a screenshot of your record in the UPPCC database. No formal education, no relevant work experience. And we are offering this bridge exam, this option to only successfully complete one exam module through May of 2024.
Yeah, we'll talk about a little bit later about what that one module is as you talk about preparing for the exam.
Right.
So stay tuned.
So yes, exactly. So let's take a look. Relevant work experience. As I said, it's full-time procurement work experience, public or private, purchaser or seller within the past 10 years. You can have multiple job titles, multiple employers, whatever it takes to get you to that minimum level. And for each employment experience, there has to be third-party verification by a supervisor or HR. That's not them calling us or asking us. That's an actual process. And again, the certification handbook, you are going to need to pull the handbook out. And on the next slide, you will see a sample on the left of the page in the handbook that identifies all the technical competency statements. There are 43. And it was determined by the practice analysis that for an employment position in procurement to be at the mid to executive level, someone needs to perform or performed, you know, in the past, if it was past job, at least 20 of the 43 technical competencies. So for every full-time procurement employment position over the past 10 years, you will have to self-assess that you performed at least 20 of those 43. Then you're going to identify a specific person who will be your verifier, and you're going to provide us their name, their job title, and their email contact information. Let them know that they're going to verify not just the company name, your starting date, your ending date, but they also are going to have to verify the technical competencies that you selected. So what happens is you fill out the online application. As soon as you click submit, an auto email goes out to each verifier. It gives them your name, the job title, all of that, and a listing of the 20 or more technical competencies. And then the verifiers have to respond back through the same email form. And all verification has to be complete before we can consider your application and your candidacy.
And Diane, this whole issue of verification by an independent verifier, your boss or HR, is really one of those best practices that's required in order to get the ANSI accreditation, right?
That's exactly right. And this is, I think, very critical. If you're applying through pathways A through E, you are going to need to get your employment verified. I always feel very badly for people who have, seemingly obviously not contacted their verifiers. And then the verifier comes back and says, no, they didn't do that. That takes that entire employment experience off the chart for you. And if you're trying to come up with 72 or 96 months of work experience over the past 10 years, having one position, one employment experience denied can be, the difference between being eligible and not. It's always best to contact these individuals, let them know that an email is going to come from us, and then explain to them the importance and the requirement of them to actually submit it back. So you working with your own verifiers, that I would say is a huge key for pathways A through E.
Yeah, I think the other point to mention here, Diane, is that the commission, an independent certification commission, decided that they would not rely on job titles as a qualifier because, as you know, job titles are radically different depending upon the organization you work for. So sometimes the chief purchasing agent is at the beginning, sometimes that's the top person. So rather than getting wrapped up into what a job title has, we actually broke this down in two areas. One is for you to be able to do your self-assessment. So if you know what the job that you do, and you're fairly confident, although you want to connect it with that verifier again, but you're fairly confident that the verifier agrees with you, you will literally go through that exercise of looking at the 43 technical competencies and then identifying it that you meet at least 20 of them. Matter of fact, when you do that online with the application, it's going to give you a drop down of those 43 and you're clicking to get to at least 20. And there's no guesswork here. You go right into that certification handbook that we talked about earlier, and you see all 43. So you know exactly if you are eligible or not, which I think is a real good benefit. But Diane, your point is really, really important. Make sure that your verifier agrees with you on the work that you did, because that gets difficult if you think you did A and then your boss comes back and says, no, Alice, it actually didn't do that at all. So it's really important that you kind of work through, make sure that they understand the critical importance of being eligible through that verification process.
Right.
Diane, anything else on that? I don't see any questions.
No.
Again, as Justin mentioned, please use the chat box or the Q&A box. We'll be glad to address these questions. But that really takes us into the eligibility, and hopefully you understand there's 6 ways in which it's all about choice. There's 6 ways that you can come into the certification program. A lot of flexibility there. So Diane, why don't we go to the second one, which is how do we apply, right?
All right. So we have a checklist before you apply. You want to confirm that you're eligible. Reading the handbook is the way to go. I can talk to you about your education, but I can't tell you over the phone if you're eligible because I don't know your work experiences or if you can get anybody to verify them for you. So you're going to confirm you're eligible. You want to make sure each work experience aligns with 20 or more. Again, pathway F, you're exempt from this. Confirm your supervisors or HR will do this for you. And then you want to determine which testing window is best for you. So you have to select a testing window and then be prepared to make payment for the application and at least one exam module. All right, so here's some more. How do I apply? No set deadlines, no late fees. We do recommend you apply at least 30 days before the first day of the testing period. If you wait too long and there's only 15, 18 days before a testing window opens, you're not allowing any time for the application to be reviewed and accepted, and then to receive access to schedule an appointment. So 30 days prior. If you are going to request special accommodations, we say 45 days. I would say 60 days is probably a better idea because again, we have to have time to review everything and make arrangements for you. So if you pick pathways A through D, you're going to upload your diplomas or your certificates. You want to register for a specific testing period. We have 4 windows each year, and then you're going to submit payment.
And Diane, that was a big question that was on people's minds. What are the application fees and exam fees?
Right. The application fee is non-refundable and it's $150. We do not have different fees based on NIGP membership. It's the same fee for everyone because this is a certification for the entire profession. So the application fee, non-refundable, $150. If you're going to spend $150 and it's not going to be returned, reading the handbook, that just makes all kinds of sense. And then the exam fee is $100 per exam module. For pathways A through E, there are 2 exam modules. For pathway F, there's just 1. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then once your application is approved, you are active or valid for 2 years from that approval date. So you have to meet the requirements within that 2 years. Now, special accommodations. This is another great place where we can demonstrate the firewall. Everyone on the application is going to answer yes or no about special accommodations. If you answer yes, your application immediately goes to me and only me. Because when you request special accommodations, we have a special accommodations form that your licensed healthcare professional is going to have to complete and sign and return to us. So I am the only person that sees your private health information. And then when I determine the special accommodations that we can approve, I will tell Pearson VUE what I've approved for you. I will not tell them why. So that's another great place that the firewall comes in. You know, nobody wants their health information shared beyond, necessary. So let's take a look at the next slide. So your licensed healthcare professional is going to provide the diagnosis, recommend an accommodation or accommodations plural, and then they have to have seen you within 1 year from your application date. So you won't be able to send you won't be able to attach a note. There's an actual special accommodations form. It's a part of the certification handbook, or you can email me directly and I'd be happy to send that form to you. All right, so the next big area, I think, how do I schedule my testing date and time? And as Rick mentioned, you will be going to a testing center. And we have 4 testing windows every year: February, May, August, and November, the entire months. Once your application is approved, Pearson VUE will send you an authorization to test email with instructions on how to schedule your testing center and your date. So you'll get an approval email from us, and then we will tell you when to expect your authorization to test email. All testing is taking place at Pearson VUE testing centers. The reason for this is standards have not yet been developed and accepted for certification programs and certification testing for online testing and remote proctoring. Those are being worked on right now. Once those standards are established for personnel certification and certification testing, we will provide those to the Certification Commission to consider whether or not they want to offer online testing and remote proctoring. That is not anything that we expect to be, well, it definitely won't be ready for the November testing window, November 2021, but we are keeping our eyes on that. All right. And then let's say you've applied, you've registered, you've got your appointment, now you can't take your exam. Life happens. You have to cancel your own appointment. I can't help you with that, and Pearson VUE can't help you with that. In your authorization to test email, you're going to get instructions on setting up your own Pearson VUE account or record. That's how you're going to schedule your appointment. That's how you're going to cancel your appointment. But you have to cancel at least 24 hours in advance, or the $100 testing fee will have to be paid to either get a new appointment or to transfer to a new window. Pearson VUE charges for all late cancellations and missed appointments, and we pass that $100 charge directly to the candidate. But if it's less than 24 hours and a non-emergency, then the entire testing fee is going to be charged. But if it's less than 24 hours and you have a medical or family emergency that can be documented, contact me immediately so we can talk. Or if you just decide that you're not ready, you're too busy, you've got to take a vacation, anything besides a medical or family emergency that can be documented, you can transfer to a new window, but there's a $50 transfer fee.
Now, Diane, if you, let's say you were scheduled on the 5th of May, which is one of the testing periods, and now you want to move that to the 25th of May in the same window. That's not a transfer, is it? It's because it's within the testing period, but you need to do that. You need to do that at least the 24 hours in advance.
Sure, and you're going to do that online yourself through your own Pearson VUE record. You'll go in and at least 24 hours in advance, you'll go in, say that you want to reschedule. It shows you what available appointments there are at the different testing centers, and then you can schedule a new one. No fee for that. The transfer fee is if you transfer to a future testing period.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So if you don't pass one or both modules, as I said, pathways A through E, you have to successfully complete module A and module B. Pathway F, you only successfully complete module B. You retest only on the entire module that you weren't successful. So if you have to pass modules A and modules B, and you pass module A, but you're not successful with module B, your module A passing score stands, but you would have to retake the entire module B. You can only test once on any module in any testing window. So if you tested in August and you weren't successful, you would have to wait and then register for a future window. You can't get an appointment for August 5th, find out you're not successful, pay the $100 retest fee, and then get another appointment in August, once per window for each module. And then you get 3 opportunities to pass each module within your 2-year application period. All right, any questions? I know we're throwing information now hot and heavy to you.
We do have one, and I want you to confirm this for me, Diane. Any of these pathways A through E, the relevant work experience can be a combination of private sector and public sector experience, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So if I'm pathway C and I need the 48 months or 4 years, some of that could be in the private sector, some of that could be in the public sector, as long as it's at least the 20 of the 43 and can be verified.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You can combine private, public, purchaser, seller, as long as it's at the mid to executive level, which is 20 or more of the 43 competencies, and you have someone who will verify that for you. So, yep,
Good.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to turn it back to Rick. Rick is going to talk about preparation.
Yeah, so 2 things that we want to focus in on. One is to know the exam content, and then how do you take advantage of those prep options. Tabitha had talked about them in her presentation, ways in which you prepare. And that's, was a hot topic for this audience. So let's first look at the exam content. Remember I said you're going to get tired of me saying this? It's based on those, the public procurement competency framework. So it's in not only those 7 major focus areas, but the same 43 competency statements that you validate your work experience on are the competency statements that are going to be covered in the exam. So 43 of those specific, and the practice analysis survey that we talked about earlier identified where the weighted percentages are. So don't assume that a 7th of the exam is on strategy and a 7th is on sourcing and solicitation. Matter of fact, I'll show you, because we want to be very transparent about what percentages of those competency statements are coming into the exams. But they are competency statements. So what does that mean? Again, these are in the certification handbook, but let's look at an example on the leadership focus area. So a sample of those competency statements is your ability to create and foster a professional ethical culture, or a system of continuous improvement, or professional development opportunities, or ways in which you engage stakeholders, or ways in which you support both internal and external relationships. Those are examples of competency statements in that leadership area. Now, we've talked about a two-part module exam. I just want to be very clear on that. It's referred to as Module A and Module B, and we'll talk a little bit about what's in each of those. But the benefit that you have in a two-part module exam is that flexibility to take both modules all at the same time, or you can separate them. Now, if you're a test taker, and I know people that are like this, truly, they are out there. They love exams so much that they'll take one module at 8 o'clock in the morning, take a little break, and then they'll come back to the testing center at 11 o'clock and take the second one. By the way, full disclosure, I am not one of those people. I do not take tests well, so I'd rather stretch it out. So you have that flexibility. Again, you could take one module on the 1st of the month and the second module on the 30th of the month. Or I can take one module in November and one module in February. It's really about you. It gives you that flexibility to decide when you want to schedule those exams. And by the way, you don't take module A and then B. It doesn't make any difference what order you get in, as long as you complete both modules if you are a pathways A to E. And Diane mentioned this also, the benefit of a modular exam is that each score is independent. So you can pass module A, not be successful, unfortunately, module B. You don't have to take the entire exam over again. All you have to do is take the module B. Each module, 80 multiple choice questions, and each exam module is 2 hours. Now, here is, and this is again in the certification handbook, and I think Justin will also give you a copy of these PowerPoints, the PowerPoint slide deck. You can see the 43 competency statements on the left-hand side going across the 7 focus areas. And you can see that roughly 50% are in Module A, and 50%, a little bit more than 50% are in Module B. Now, the Module B is for those who have, well, everyone's going to take Module B, but if you are a CPPO or CPPP and you're coming through Pathway F, you're only going to take Module B because essentially your O and B have covered those statements that you see in Module B, Module A. So keep in mind, if you are a Pathway F, you have your current CPPO or CPPB, it's Module B only, which is a bridge exam. It bridges you to the CPP. By the way, just to be clear, you don't bridge and lose your certification. You know, I just recently recertified dually my CPPO and CPPB, very proud of that. You don't lose that designation. This gives you an opportunity to add that designation, just as you saw with Tabitha. That's how that worked as well. So again, here are how these break down, and you can see the number of questions that are different in each of those modules. Another way to look at it is graphically this way. Look at Module A. So a major focus is on planning and analysis, sourcing and solicitation, and contract administration. You can see at least 50% is in those areas. But when we shift to Module B, look at the significant differences. So again, if you're coming and only doing Module B, you're only doing the bridge exam because 30% of you already have your O and B. Your focus is going to be on leadership, business, and strategy. That makes up 72% of this exam. Again, some of those areas that you did not cover when you did your CPPO and your CPPB. And remember, as I mentioned earlier, we're trying to think comprehensively about all of the competencies that are important for you to be successful on the job. And leadership is certainly one of those. Business continuity is certainly one of those as well. The advantages, you have immediate exam results. So rather than, angsting over, did I pass? Did I fail? Waiting to get your exam scores 4-6 weeks later, you get the exam results at the testing center when you complete and you hit submit. They give you a piece of paper and it tells you whether you were successful or unsuccessful. That really kind of helps you as you work through the process. So we really think that that's a major advantage. So that's exam content. Again, module A, module B, look at the certification handbook. It will walk you through those as well. And then the second question is, how do I prepare? And this is top of mind for many of you. So these are options. Everyone actually prepares a little bit differently. Some people like study groups. Some people want to be independent. So I'm just going to walk you through these options that are available. You could decide to do none of it, and that's okay. It's really about how you want to prepare for your certification. Just as NIGP does preparation guides for the CPPO and the CPP, we also do it for the NIGP-CPP. That prep guide is a digital prep guide. You purchase it at $45 per module. So if you only need module B, it's $45. If you need both of them, it would be the 45 times 2 to get that digital guide. If you want to go a little bit further, and the prep guide is really going to walk you through all of the 47 competency statements. I'll have some some practice questions in there as well, and I'll walk you through that content. Some folks actually like to have that connection with an instructor. So we also have the virtual prep courses that is led by instructors. Usually we schedule them about 2 months in advance of every test period. So you can see that we offer this 4 times a year, just because you also have 4 testing windows. If you are taking the comprehensive, in other words, module A and module B, that's a 4-week course. It's at $395. You get the prep guide with it, so you don't buy that in separately. And then the bridge is a 2-week course, $249, just covers module B, but it also includes the prep guide. We want you to be successful. So if you take one of these prep courses and you are not successful, we are going to allow you to repeat that instructor-led course free 1 additional time if you're unsuccessful. Most important is we don't want you to be able to take advantage of that. We want you to be successful. But if there's some things that maybe it was the wrong day for you, or you didn't quite understand how to prepare best, you can take that virtual prep course 1 more time. In addition to the prep guide and the prep courses, we've got a lot of feedback on the online self-assessment. The way this works is it's also done by module. So you can see it's a $49 fee per module. And you purchase it in the 2 sections, either module A and or module B. And you can also get them at different intervals. Each of the modules is going to have 43 questions. And the nice thing about it is you get that immediate feedback. So you begin to answer a question based on a situational scenario. It comes back and says, hey, the answer was C, you're right. Or no, what you should focus in on this. Because remember, a lot of times these are not black and white issues. Leadership is not black and white. Sometimes there's shades of gray. What is the best way to approach a particular issue? So you get that immediate feedback. When you complete the 75, you get a customized report online. It's going to show you where your strengths and weaknesses are, so that you can begin to think about, well, I don't have to worry about my strengths. I really need to focus in on some of those shortcomings where I was getting the answers wrong. And by the way, that leads you to a recommended set of courses and pathways that you can focus in on to hone in on your competency skills. So that's why over the left-hand side, we talk about every time you buy a competency module or for the self-assessment, you get a $49 discount code, and you can use that discount code to take any of those courses that will help you strengthen. Now, that assessment is available for you 4 times. So what we've heard a lot of people say is that once they have applied and they've been approved and now they've identified their testing window, they'll take the self-assessment first, just to kind of clear the air. How well do I know this material? And then they'll go and do some studying, and maybe 2 weeks out before they sit for the exam, they'll take the self-assessment again. And by the way, you don't have to do it in one setting. So you could do, the first 25 questions and then get dinner or put the kids to bed or whatever you want to do, and you can come back and take that. There's a lot of flexibility that's available in this online assessment. And again, it's just an option for you to consider, right? Two other things to mention, Insight study groups. These are organic. These are actually individuals who have been successful in obtaining their NIGP-CPP, and they are graciously hosting this opportunity to build that study group. So you can go to the Insight community for CPP prep and sign up for there as well. Then on the David Nash, who's been really instrumental in helping people be successful in both the CPPO and the CPPB. He has also provided a question of the day for the CPP as well. So a lot of ways in which you can prepare. I know one question can you take the assessment before you complete the application? Absolutely. You could take a course, you could go get the bridge guide, anything before or after your application is approved. But you may, it just depends on what your process is. If you want to really become familiar with the materials, maybe that's a great way to do that. So you can do it in any kind of order. So hopefully I addressed how the content, again, as I said earlier, look at that certification handbook because it's going to walk you through that content and then how you prepare. And we're seeing most people, probably about 2 months before they sit for the exam, they're going through some of these materials. So Diane, back to you on the question 5.
Okay, and first we have a question that in the Q&A, can the CPP prep course be used for CPP certification prep? And I think I know the answer to that, but I don't work with prep. Rick, would you mind addressing?
Oh, okay. I was over in the chat box, not the Q&A. My apologies for it. So for your CPP certification, you have to earn contact hours, training contact hours. I would assume the answer is no, because that's not the purpose of the CPP prep course. But I may be reading the question wrong. So if the question is a pathways course, going back to the very beginning when I said there's 33 pathways competency modules, yes, those do apply for your training hours that you have to achieve. I think for the UPPCC, the most important thing is that any course you take, whether it's through NIGP or another collegial association or through chapters, is that course ties directly to the UPPCC's body of knowledge and competencies. And so that's the key. So if you're talking about taking NIGP courses, yeah, they apply. But I wouldn't say, because I'm reading the question about the prep course wouldn't, because it's not teaching you content on the materials. It's just assessing how well you do. And again, if you have any other questions, catch me offline and I'll be glad to talk to you further about that. So with that, Diane, question 5.
All right, thanks. How do I maintain my NIGP-CPP? You're going to recertify every 3 years, and you're going to do it through continuing education in procurement content. So anything in the public procurement competency framework or part of the 43 technical competencies, you're going to have to complete a minimum of 36 contact hours. And then 9 of those 36 contact hours can be earned by developing, teaching, or instructing public procurement content. So NIGP coursework chapters also have courses, and they have presentations and things like that. So you could earn your contact hours that way for procurement content. And then once you've earned the NIGP-CPP, you can request retired status after you retire if you'd like. Okay. And
now, the other thing I did mention about your certification. So again, several of you are recertifying with the UPPCC, that's great. Just as I did, you'll see recertify with the CPP. Oftentimes it's almost like a twofer, right? So if you go to an NIGP webinar or a professional development course that's offered by your local chapter, or you go to the virtual forum next week, you get contact hours from those activities, and those contact hours apply both to your CPPO and your B and to your CPP. So you get credit for that one course, and it would go in both directions. Another question that came up, and Sophia, I'm going to have to actually refer to Justin because he probably knows this better than I. The prep guides have been digital, but there is a way in which to get a printed copy. Justin, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so we're making some final touches on how the guide is going to look, the hard copy guide, and those should be available very soon. I would say by the first week of September.
Okay, so it is available digitally, and then you can get a printed copy of it. A lot of people would just like to have a printed copy at their coffee table or wherever at the office, and they can make notes on it. So yeah, that flexibility is going to be there for you. Okay, we're on our final on a series of questions. Diane, do you see anything else that we needed to address? Are we good?
No, I think we are good.
Okay, so let me wrap up by just reiterating my message to you on choice. The idea here really is not for the CPP to replace. You don't lose your certifications if you're certified by the UPPCC or our friends at the Institute for Supply Management or NCMA. All those programs are really, they're great programs. This is about looking at choice as you want to be recognized for your knowledge achievements. So the NIGP, and just doing a comparison with the CPPO, 6 ways in which you can become eligible. There is no procurement training required. When the Certification Commission was designing this program, they said, yeah, we can come back and say you have to have at least 48 contact hours or 72 contact hours, whatever the case may be. But the proof really is your ability to pass the exam. And so rather than putting pressure on you, and I can tell you, folks, I've been around a number of years. I've heard some really crazy stories about people who were 20 years in the profession, but they were taking the intro course from NIGP. And I said, why are you taking the intro course? Well, because I get 24 contact hours and I need them in order to be eligible for certification. And folks, it really is about creating relevancy for you in the workplace, not to identify specific number of hours of training that you have to achieve. So no procurement training is required on it. It really is focused on leadership. It's based on competencies. And as we've talked about throughout this webinar, it's really about leadership, business principles, strategies. That's 70% of that module B. A 2-part module exam offered 4 times a year. You have 3 opportunities to pass each module and immediate notification at the testing center. And then the application fees, you can see them as well here. The application fee, which is valid for 2 years, $150. And then the exam fee is $100 per module. And again, if unfortunately you're not successful with one module, but you pass the other, you only have to take that one module over again. You don't have to take the entire exam over again. And then certification, recertification every 3 years, and the fees that are attached to this. One area that I think is really important to mention is that this kind of this umbrella effect. And I mentioned this at the beginning of the webinar, and that the certification program is not a standalone. It's integrated with everything that we're doing with Pathways. It's a very holistic approach to how you learn and to choose the courses that are most relevant to the work that you do today and your career aspirations today and into the future, and how that integrates with credentialing. Integration is absolutely critical. And because NIGP is doing the research, constantly working with academia and other researchers to refresh the content for Pathways, it not only refreshes the learning, but it also works through to all of our certificate programs and the certification program as well, in order to make sure that relevancy occurs. We're having a real big emphasis on workforce development as the bosses in procurement, the procurement directors come and say, how do I help people in their career paths? How do I do with succession planning? Again, it's all integrated with pathways, and certification is important, is an important aspect of that. And then the last one I mentioned is this data integration. So yes, there is a firewall on your member record and your learning management system or your LMS record and your certification record. But because they're in the same database, you have a single sign-on, regardless of whether you're coming in to do your certification or you're coming in as a member of NIGP. And because it's in the same database, we auto-post all of your NIGP learning activities into your certification record for recertification. So rather than saying, well, do I need to have a filing cabinet of all these certificates of classes that I go to? No, because once you take a webinar, again, you go to a virtual forum or you go to the in-person forum or classes that you would take, all of that gets embedded and recorded into your LMS, and that becomes available to you when you do recertification. All that said and done, this is a standalone program. We continue to support the work of the CPPO and the CPPP. Again, I'm very proud of that. I know that 30% of you on the call are also proud of that achievement. Tabitha mentioned it as well. NIGP courses will continue to support the new body of knowledge that's coming in with the first exams in October of 2021. We'll continue to do the certification preps. You do get that ability to, when you recertify, you can take that one course or that one learning activity, and applies to both the CPPO and the CPP as well as the CPP. But then additional bonus is if you are currently certified by CPPO or as a CPPO or B, you can bridge, and that bridge is going to be available for 3 years through May of 2024. And these don't necessarily come in sequence. You don't have to get your O and your B before you look at the CPP. Obviously, that's 70% of you that are in that area now. On the other hand, if you get your O or your B, then you can go through the bridge exam. Hey, listen, folks, this is all about choice. It's all about what's best for you in your career. So let me see if I can catch a couple of remaining questions. Is the new Boxy available for download? Yes, it is, Don. I believe if you go on to the NIGP website, you will see the new UPPCC body of knowledge and competency, but you could definitely also do it by going on the UPPCC website. Let me see. And then we have a question about enrolled in a university. It says the course is taken at the formal education level earn credits that also qualify for contact hours at a rate of 16 per 1 credit hour. Now, because the UPPCC is a separate entity, I can't speak necessarily for them. I would suggest that you call the UPPCC, go to their website and get a point of contact, and they can walk you through that. Because I'm not really privileged to speak on their behalf. It's an independent certification. So yeah, go ahead and reach out to them, and that would be great. And also, come and see us. As I said, if you go on the NIGP website, there is a homepage on certification. You can click that, get all that information. And of course, any questions you have for Diane or I, our points of contact there are in our email addresses. And again, Diane is your best friend when it comes to certification, just to make sure that we have those firewalls. In addition to the firewalls, she is actually superb in knowing the ins and outs of this program, is really going to be your best resource as it relates to certification. So with that, Justin, we'll wrap up this webinar. We are very, very grateful that you spent 90 minutes of your life with us. We may have opened up more questions now that you kind of think about the process. Reach out to Diane, reach out to me, go look at the certification handbook. And please consider this as an option for your career. We're very proud of the 550 that have earned their certification to date. And we see this is going to be a growing and valuable certification today and into the future. And finally, just again, thank you for what you do every day for the communities you serve. Here we're hopefully coming out of this pandemic. Yeah, we had some bumps in the road again. You guys were resilient. You were agile, working from your kitchen tables, working, from your basements. You continue to do the very best work for the communities you serve, and we're so proud of the work that you do in public procurement. So thanks again for all you do. And with that, have a great rest of the afternoon, and hopefully we'll see some of you at the virtual forum. Begins next Monday. We have, Diane, I think it was close to 1,800 individuals that are registered for the virtual forum that begins on Monday. So hopefully we'll see some of you folks at that event as well. Thanks again, and appreciate your interest in the certification program.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Rick, Diane, and Tabitha, and our audience for the great questions. Please take time to fill out our evaluation survey. Once we end the webinar, you'll receive a prompt to take that. Both the recording and survey links will also be emailed to you later this afternoon. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.